In 1932, a new man won election for the presidency named Franklin Delano Roosevelt, or FDR for short. Now, President Roosevelt realized that the economy was obviously struggling with after the economic crash, or the stock market crash, I should say, in 1929. We really hadn't recovered yet. Plus, you had the Dust Bowl going on out in Kansas that was not helping with crops and keeping that going. So he realized he needed to do something. This is his plan, and that's what we're going to talk about today. It's called the New Deal. In 1929, the Roaring Twenties lost their roar. The stock market plunged on a Tuesday in October, thus creating the largest loss to that time in the stock market. As you can see, on that Tuesday, the market crashed, but the problem was it didn't continue or didn't stop crashing there. It continued on down into the 1930s. And compounding this problem was something known as the Dust Bowl. This was happening in the central bread or the breadbasket states, and as you can see here, there was dust storms from the dust ground drying out, and the wind picking up the dust, and it would literally bury houses and cars and all that stuff. And as you can see here, we've got a map showing you kind of where this was mostly effective. Those different states there, Kansas, Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, New Mexico being the main states that were affected. Obviously, we need to do something about this. This Dust Bowl stuff, we can't really control Mother Nature. Um, the weather's going to do what it's going to do. We can't necessarily create rain. But the economy stuff, we had to try to do something. That one we had a little bit more control over. And like I said before, FDR comes in and he thinks he's got some ideas. He's got a few different programs he wants to try. And that's kind of where we're going to go on this thing. I want you to know some of these programs he implemented in an effort to try to bring us out of this economic depression and get the economy. That's going to be our big word for this week. Get the economy going again. The first thing that needed to happen was FDR needed to get people to quit taking all their money out of the bank. If the banks had no money, then what the heck were they going to do? If they have no money, they can't loan money out and they can't invest and make their money. So what he decides to do is go with a bank holiday. Okay, he literally is going to close every bank in the United States so that people can't get their money out. Okay, and what the idea behind this was to basically say, okay, tap the brakes and realize that, hey, if I can't get my money out today, it's not the end of the world. I can function. And so it was kind of to try to get the mass hysteria fixed, and basically to stop the bleeding. The next thing we're going to see is something called the National Recovery Administration. And this was something that FDR created in an effort to try to come up with some people and some leadership going into this thing, so we could come up with ideas for how to uh, stop this decline and come up with some things to go forward with. Number one, you have to understand an economy does not work unless the money goes around the circle. Okay? If everyone's holding on to their money, that means no one's spending money. So that means nobody can get money. An economy only works if people spend money. You have to spend money. I cannot stress that enough. So to get money, what do you have to do? Well, you have to have a job, right? Or inherit something, but that's not exactly what we're looking for here. To earn money so that you have money to spend, you have to have a job. FDR recognizes this, and so does the NRA, and we're not talking about the National Rifle Association here, we're talking about the National Recovery Administration. They realize priority number one has to be creating jobs. There were all kinds of New Deal programs, everything ranging from the Public Works Administration, Tennessee Valley Authority, the WPA, which was the Works Progress Authority, Civilian Works Administration, Homeowners Loan Corporation, National Recovery Act. It was all enveloping underneath this New Deal idea, and the whole idea was getting people working, whether it was the Works Progress Administration, or here, this is the Public Works Administration, a dam built out in Oregon. This is the CCC. They went out and made trails and got paid to do that. And even some of our famous landmarks, such as this is an early picture of Hoover Dam being built, were built by New Deal programs. When you deal with a New Deal, you have to talk about the three R's: relief, recovery, and reform. Relief was all about trying to get the hemorrhaging stopped. Okay, stop the bleeding, basically. See if we can get things, um, from getting any worse. Recovery was all about trying to get things turned around and see if we can get problems fixed. Reform was trying to get make changes so that it doesn't happen again. Okay. Well, we saw the relief with the bank holiday trying to get it stopped, and the start of that with the job creation, and the continuation into recovery with the job creation and the programs that we had made. But now came the reform part, and that wasn't so much about jobs as it was about policy and things that could be done um, to help us out. There's two big New Deal reform policies that came about that are still very much in existence today. They are still very much something that you know about and hear about and have heard about and know exactly what it is, or should know pretty well what it is, um, and are still highly controversial, just like they were in the 1930s when they were passed. Of course, I'm talking about what we call the FICA taxes. And for those that don't know, it's federal income. Yeah, I'm not sure what the rest is. I apologize. But anyway, we're talking about Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. We talked briefly about pensions last year, I believe. And if you don't remember what a pension is, it's basically where you pay in through the course of your career and then you draw out until you die. That's essentially what Social Security is. The idea is to give a supplemental income to people who have spent, 30, 40, 50 years working, and now this way they get something from the government for some supplemental income. And the idea was, even if things failed, they'd have this to fall back on, so they had something to work with, um, though it was not much. And it was never meant to be a full income. It's been controversial lately for our older generation saying, well, we don't get a very big increase to our Social Security, but prices keep going up. How are we supposed to live on that? Well, the answer is you're not supposed to live on that. It's not meant for that. It's meant to be extra money on top of your other retirement. So if I can tell you something that needs to be learned by today's society or by today's generation, or in other words, you people, don't count on Medicare being your only source of income when you retire. It's not going to turn out well. You cannot live on what you make just on that. Good? I just wanted to give you a thumbs up. I don't know why. Anyway, um, so basically, what Roosevelt says is, okay, we're going to give you this supplemental income. Gives you a little bit more. So if you're living on retirement right now, uh, you've got enough to meet your basic daily needs. Now you've got a little supplemental income, so you can go out and spend some of that and help keep the economy going. Because remember, like I said earlier, if the economy wheel's not spinning, nobody's happy. It falls over flat, right? It's all about the circulation of money. Otherwise, the economy doesn't work. So that's kind of what the idea behind this was, and what it was used for. Let's stop and think about this Medicare and Medicaid stuff. Okay? Medicare, well, meta for medical, and care means care for when you're older, basically. Okay, we'll take care of you. Meta for medical, and CAID or aid, medic aid, is for aiding people that can't help themselves. So basically, it's disability um, insurance, more or less. People that can't afford to get it will help you out by doing this. The New Deal had some of, and I'm going to use the word that some think is a swear word, and some think is the greatest word. I don't know where you lie on it, but it's very liberal in that it was about helping other people. Some people would almost say it was like socialism. Where have we heard some of these fights coming up lately? Um, More on that later. I could talk on that all day, and we might hear it a little bit. Anyway, Medicare, basically what happens is everybody pays into Medicare and Medicaid. Okay. When you retire and you turn 65, I think it is, it might be 62. There's some different rules for it, but call it 65 for this point. What happens is the government, or you can apply for a Medicare card, and the government basically takes over the payment of your health insurance or your health care. If you go to the hospital, the government picks up the check. If you go and ride in the ambulance with me, the government picks up that check. There's some rules on that. Not everything is covered. There are some issues with it. It's not perfect, but generally speaking, if something happens to you when you are in your twilight years, as we like to call it, um, your medical care is going to be covered by the government through this Medicare, Medicare, Medicare. Anyway, Medicaid is for people who, for whatever reason, one reason or another, either are unable to get a job that has benefits, or are disabled and can't work, so they can't get benefits from a job, or can't afford health insurance. Um, there's rules for how you can get Medicaid. It's not just simply, oh, I think I'll go with Medicaid instead. Um, there's rules on what it will pay for and how much you have to pay on certain things. It's kind of complex and kind of messy, and I don't think we need to really worry about that. If you want more on that, we can certainly do some research sometime. But I'm not going to worry about that here. You don't need to worry about it. I don't need to worry about it too much. Anyway, basically, it's health care that helps people that can't help themselves. It's a lasting program that came out of the New Deal. Some love the New Deal, some hate the New Deal. Some think it's a great thing. Some think it's a not so great thing. Some think there's parts that are good. It all just depends. At the time, it was controversial, and by at the time I mean in the 1930s when these things were passed, it was controversial. Um, they're still controversial today. There's many people who say we don't need Social Security because we can't fund it. Um, we have those that say that we have too much government um, because we have to spend money on that, and it drives taxes up, and it increases our debt because we're spending more money than we're taking in. Others say, hey, these programs saved our country, and these programs are worthwhile because it provides jobs. You know, the whole idea of keeping the almighty dollar circulating and that economy wheel spinning, is something we certainly want to keep track or keep doing. So we'll talk about it here in a few minutes and see what you think, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I have my opinion. Hopefully, I didn't come through one way or another, whether I agree with it or disagree with it. Um, just try to get some facts out there for you. Um, until next time, or the test, have a great day.